I recap this week's news. And yes, Donald Trump is still the most dangerous man in the world. And I talk about a mother who gives her newborn baby the worst name ever. Kids can say the craziest things, and I share with you some real gems that some of these children came up with. Ready, set, go. This is A World Gone Mad. You're listening to A World Gone Mad, Season 1, Episode 6. Hello, I'm your host, Jeff Allen Wolf. Some weeks I do a single topic at this point of the show, and other weeks I do a weekly recap. This episode, we're going to do a weekly recap. Just a quick thing I'd like to address. I got some feedback and emails from listeners from last week's episode and rant about Donald Trump being the most dangerous man in the world. Listeners wrote in and said, "No, I'm wrong. It's Putin. It's Kim Jong-un, Jinping of China. They're more dangerous." And no, I'll still stand by my comment, but I'll refine it a little bit. At this moment in time, those are good choices for the most dangerous man in the world. I'll give you that. What I wanted to say last week, and I neglected to fine-tune it a little, so I'm going to do it here. If Donald Trump becomes president again, he will be the most dangerous man in the world. And to one person who wrote to me and commented on my remark and said, "You're overreacting, Jeff." No, I was not overreacting. In fact, to that listener and others, you're underreacting. Again, Putin, Kim Jong-un, Jinping are very dangerous. But if you have a strong leader in the White House, it causes those loon balls to think, and a strong leader possibly deters them from doing dangerous things. Therefore, Trump, or whoever the president is at that time in 2024, would be the leader of the free world and be in charge. If it is Donald, that makes him the most dangerous man in the world. So I'm going to stand by my statement, people, with everything we know about Donald to this juncture in time. Another listener who wrote in took me to task, saying, "How is Donald the most dangerous man in the world? Really? Why? Because he wanted to grab women's genitals and he disrespects women? Because he fired people from their jobs and never paid them? You're being silly, Jeff, if those are the reasons you're painting." I then wrote back and asked that person, "Did you listen to the whole premise that I was laying out about Donald in my rant?" And they wrote back, "No, I didn't listen to the full show." So with all due respect to that listener and other listeners in the future, how the hell can you make a judgment on what I said or what anyone says and come back with a comment without hearing everything that someone says? Here's the biggest issue I have, and then I'll move on, I promise. I sincerely would like to find one Republican who says, "You're right. I'm moving on from Donald because Donald is dangerous." Instead of, "Well, what you said about Donald, what about Joe? What about Hillary? What about that crackhead Hunter Biden?" What about them? I was talking about Donald, okay? Stay focused. No, squirrel, squirrel. Don't get distracted. When I talk about those other people, then we can have a conversation about them. But Republicans, stay focused when a Democrat or an independent makes a comment. Don't go off in other little things. I can have debates with Republicans. I have no issues with that. I have friends who are Republicans, but I'm getting so tired. It becomes tedious when Republicans that come across always defending Donald at all costs. No matter what happens, there's always that, "But what about fill in the blank?" Or, "Yeah, but you know, when he was in charge in the White House, he did this good thing and that good thing." It doesn't matter. I don't care what someone did before as a total package. Donald is dangerous. Stop this always being defensive, thinking that if you find a flaw in Donald, it means you found a flaw in yourself and you're embarrassed because you supported him. Please give me that one Republican out there who says, "I don't like this candidate." You're right. These are the people I like, but not always. continuing your argument with what about, and he did this good thing and that. Stop. I tune out, and I'm sure other friends tune out when that happens, whether it be Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Stay on topic, back up your point of view, stop going on another railroad track. Now that I got that out of my system, it's not going to stop. I'm sure it's going to continue with comments. Let's move on to the emergency stopgap funding bill that they finally funded from the government to keep us from shutting down the government. The bill is otherwise known as the kick the can down the road bill. What? Why? Why do we always do this? We've extended this for another week to a week and a half before we start all over again. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, lizards, tigers, lions, bears, whatever, oh my. Can we do a bill, come to an agreement, it's not going to be perfect, to extend the funding for a year? It is getting old. Move on. Do your jobs that you were hired for or voted in for, and stop kicking the can down the road. In other news, Fani Willis's disbarment trial closed. And some comments from me I already talked about recently, predicting the outcome. The judge said he's going to take the next week to 2 weeks before he makes a decision. Decision on this case could also cause a delay in the Mar-a-Lago documents case and screw everything up. And yay for Donald and his team, woohoo. Seems like there will be a disciplinary judgment, I believe, against Fani, but not a disbarment against Willis. Because again, if the Republicans would think, and Donald Trump's team would think, they're not going to, the judgment is based on law, not what you feel, not if you feel there's prejudice, based on law. And based on law, the judge would rule with some disciplinary action, like I said, but not disbarring Ms. Willis. That's my opinion. Let's see what happens. And recently announced Mitch McConnell will be stepping down in November. Look, regardless of what you think about Mitch, I'm not a big fan of Mitch's, obviously. I disagree with almost everything. I don't hold any ill will, or I make fun of someone's health, whether it be dementia or Parkinson's. It's time. It was time a year or so ago. But to Mitch McConnell, had a long run. And then the dogfight, where we throw the raw meat in the ring, and all the Republicans kill and stab and punch and jump, are going to jump in to take over for Mitch McConnell. This should be interesting. I'm going to get my popcorn and my drink, and I'm going to sit in front of the TV and watch who comes out from the chamber, the elimination chamber. 4 go in, 1 comes out. Stay tuned. The Hamas-Israel situation still is there, and we don't know where it's going to go. Recently announced from the Biden administration, humanitarian aid packages were dropped into the Gaza area. There were 66 total bundles dropped, 22 from each of the 3 aircraft, a U.S. official said. There was no water or medical supplies in the bundles. It's nice, but it doesn't even make a dent. A senior official added that the Defense Department is planning on conducting additional airdrops in Gaza in the days ahead, but declined to offer further details. So that's still in limbo. Let's see what happens. In big news, the Supreme Court finally weighed in on hearing Donald's appeal for immunity, that he was immune from any prosecution when he was president. Besides the fact that it took the Supreme Court 2 weeks to decide what they were going to do, this may push back everything and give the Donald a get out of jail card. I was going to go into this heavily on this issue this week, but I think I'm going to save it for next week. This is important. This will probably push the Jack Smith trial, the big trial, all the way to the end of July. So, not sure what's going to happen on this. I'm a little disturbed that we won't have the final outcomes of all the trials before the election. I still think the Supreme Court judges are going to rule unanimously or 8-1, 7-2, and say Donald is not fully immune when he was president. You have to do that, guys. Again, what I said before in an earlier episode, think about this. If you say Donald is okay and he gets away with everything, that opens the door for every president, him included if he becomes president again, Joe Biden, whoever it may be in the future. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. And they can't be prosecuted because, hey, the Supreme Court ruled you're immune. No one's above the law. And if any Republican out there doesn't think that this should be the ruling, I don't want to hear from you. Because I would just look at you, laugh, close the door on your face, and turn and walk away. We'll see what happens. And finally, yogurt and the FDA. In a decision nearly 5 years in the making, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has decided that yogurts can now make a limited claim that the food may reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. The federal agency concluded this past Friday. The decision marks the first ever qualified health claim the federal agency has issued for yogurt. The health claim says it's supported by scientific evidence but does not meet the more rigorous, significant scientific agreement standard required for an authorized health claim. In other words, basically, the FDA is basically saying there is a correlation between yogurt and limiting type 2 diabetes, not a super strong direct evidence of it, but a correlation. That's good news. I eat yogurt. Any one of you do out there, it's good. It's healthy. And that's the weekly recap for this episode. And as I say, the thick plottins. I'll be right back. Send us your comments, your suggestions, what you liked, what you didn't like. 2 ways you can do that. Our email, AWorldGoneMadPodcast@gmail.com, or our toll-free 24 hours a day, 7 days a week voicemail, 833-399-9653. And please don't forget, if you're listening to our podcast on an app, please hit subscribe. That way you'll be notified when our new episode goes up online. We need to hear from you. That helps us improve our episodes. Thank you so much. Now back to the show. This segment is our bizarre, offbeat, unusual story. The kind of story I come across that makes you either go, what? Or, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Or, I can't believe that happened. It's just a fun little slice of life that I share with you. This week, we're going to talk about names. Human beings name things. Whether it be our pets, dogs, cats, birds, etc., our babies that are born, or parts of our body that we shouldn't discuss. But that's the task at hand. To come up with a name that symbolizes something you like, using and creating some nice imagery. You're going to be calling your pet or your baby or other things that name throughout their life. So you want to pick something appropriate, right? We've all gone through this. Most of us have gone through this. Here's a story about a woman who accidentally gives her baby the worst name ever. Then she breaks down after she realizes what she's done. A woman has been left horrified after she picked out a name she thought was perfect for her little girl, only to be told by her family that it was the worst name ever. Let this serve as a stark reminder to all parents. Triple check your baby's name before you put it on the birth certificate. The baby name you choose to use for your little one is completely up to you, and there's a seemingly endless list of names to choose from that range from the traditional to the unique. Now, parents take inspiration from all sorts of areas, and it's not uncommon for new mothers and dads to want to honor loved ones, such as grandparents or parents, with the name they give to their child. But this particular mother has learned the hard way that if you're planning on making up a new name, you should probably get a second opinion first. In a post shared on Reddit by the mother's cousin, it was revealed that the woman had intended to honor her grandparents, Harvey and Charlotte, by combining their names into a unique moniker for her daughter. She kept the name a secret from her family as she wanted to surprise them with the sweet gesture, and soon realized her mistake. The cousin wrote, "So my 20-year-old cousin had a baby girl last month. She named her something so horrific, I can't even call the baby by that name. She combined two names, after her grandparents, Harvey and Charlotte. She didn't tell anyone the name idea until after the baby was named and the papers signed. And the name she came up with? Harlot." Let me repeat that. She named the baby Harlot. Soon after she announced the name to the family, the woman realized her mistake when her aunt asked her why she had named her baby Whore. She heard what her aunt said, started screaming, and burst into tears as she finally understood she had accidentally given her daughter the same name as a slang term for a sex worker. The post continued, "This poor child, Harlot. Harlot! She came out very pink and has a puggy nose, so I'm calling her Piglet for now." People commenting on the post were baffled by the name the mother had come up with many of them offering better suggestions for the combination of Harvey and Charlotte. One person said she could have kept it super normal and just gone with Charlie, while another added, "The cousin is a complete idiot. Have some sense." And a third question, why do people who have unlimited access to information at their fingertips refuse to use it for a simple search before ruining a baby's life? So the next time you're thinking about naming a pet or a baby, think carefully, take your time, make sure the name you pick sounds good while you're yelling the name out loud, while other people around you can hear you saying the name and it doesn't make you look and sound like an idiot. I have to go walk my dog. Sanity! Where's my sanity? And that's our unusual offbeat story for this week. I will be right back. You're listening to a World Gone Mad podcast. If you came across an unusual story, please send it our way, or send us your comments, suggestions, what you liked, what you didn't like. Two ways you can do that. Our email, AWorldGoneMadPodcast@gmail.com, or our toll-free 24 hours a day, 7 days a week voicemail, 833-399-9653. And please don't forget, if you're listening to our podcast on an app, please hit subscribe. That way you'll be notified when our new episode goes up online. We would love to hear from you. That helps us improve our episodes. Thank you so much. Now, back to the show. In this segment, this is our uplifting and inspiring story. We try to leave you with a smile on your face after all the maddening news that we talk about and that's happening around the world. This week's uplifting and inspiring story, thought I would stick with the theme from the previous segment of children and family. You know, kids say the craziest things. In fact, those of you old enough to remember a television show called Kids Say the Darndest Things by Art Linkletter. Art would have different children on the show and ask them questions. The children's answers were usually crazy, wild, sometimes stunningly embarrassing for their parents. I came across some things kids said that I thought I'd share with you. Here we go. One 10-year-old said, "I don't need a bath. Can't you just Febreze me?" Upon being asked to unload the dishwasher after dinner, a preteen daughter asked her mom, "Is there anything less strenuous I can do?" One child remarked, "Dad, you were born back when everything was invented, right?" This question from a 4-year-old, "If Jesus walked on water, could he do a handstand too?" Another fun one, "Daddy, I know what sugar is. It's made from cookies. Here's an odd one. Daddy, I thought you gave up ice cream for Lent. When we get home, I'm calling 911. Or, Daddy, if you help me clean the playroom, I'll let you sleep with me. Here's a 7-year-old boy who said, when you get old, you get lines and vines. When asked to explain, he said, Dad, you get lines on your face and vines on your legs. One 4-year-old girl said, you can't be a man. You're a dad. Here's a real gem. After getting in trouble for something, a little boy said, I'm only 5. I don't know all the rules yet. A 4-year-old with his first earache said, Daddy, my ear has a cough in it. A 5-year-old asked, Mom, are the little flowers on the tomato plant the cheerleaders for the tomatoes? On a long car ride back from vacation, a 10-year-old boy told his 8-year-old sister, if you were Mrs. Potato Head, I would take your mouth right now. And finally, a little girl was studying her mother, who had just had a baby a few weeks earlier. She told her mom, I know where your belly went. It all went to the back. Those are some of the priceless and precious things that children say. So when you're around your own kids or other people's kids, listen carefully. You'll pick up some interesting, crazy gems as well. Keep an eye out, everyone. We'll revisit this topic another time. There's a lot more that I can come across. Hopefully this put a few smiles on your face. If so, it served its purpose. I'll be right back. I want to thank you very much. I wanted to explain about the giveaway we're doing. Starting with this show and through episode 7, we're going to draw one lucky listener's name and give them a $25 Amazon gift card. I think you could find a goodie or two on Amazon with $25. So how do you enter this giveaway? Very simple. Send us an email to AWorldGoneMadPodcast@gmail.com. In the email, write Amazon. Tell us your first name, where you're calling from, how did you find the podcast, and an age range, general. Any comments about the show, good, bad, or otherwise, please leave that also. So very easy, an email with the information I just told you. Your email helps us improve the show. I'm looking forward to your comments. This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. Until next time, stay hopeful.